Hello and welcome. I'm Ari Lax, and this week we are venturing back into Standard. Things are clearing up a bit, and the format is starting to shape up into a more normal format than it's been the last few months. We see a lot of mid-range-ish mirrors branching down from the aggressive Mardu and Zombie decks, up a little more to the Constrictor decks, and then, further up to what did Aaron Forsyth say? Cut your Marvels, cut your Ulamogs, add some Glory Bringers and Chandras. Well, that literally, Teamer Energy is a deck. So those are kind of the big decks. But a deck that's been popping up lately that Todd Stevens has been playing with, to my understanding, is Mono-Red Eldrazi. And this looks like the most bizarre deck. Like, I have no idea how someone comes to the conclusion of this deck and be like, yeah, this is what's going to win, because this is just not how I'd ever build a deck. But it's been doing fine. So I wanted to give it a spin and kind of learn a little bit about the cards in it. Because at the very least, I'm going to learn a lot about how each of these cards matches up against the format. So walk through what's going on here. Because of the departure of the Pain Lands, over a year ago now? Almost a year ago? The various Eldrazi in the format have suffered because it's really, colorless is a full-on extra color now that you don't have virtual tri-lands to just put in your deck. So you actually have to play real colorless lands to make that happen. So this deck does that. So you've got Ether Hub, which is really just the best one. It taps for your main color and your colorless, quote, splash. Crumbling Vestige, again, another way to produce your main color early for your removal spells. Seagate Wreckage. But it's multiple Seagate Wreckages doesn't really do a lot. So your value land is Hanweir Battlements. This is an interesting one. I don't know what to think of it, and we'll kind of go through the deck and we'll discuss why. But giving things haste is not negligible. I will say that. So, bunch of mountains, they're just mountains. You don't maybe want a cycling land. I think that's a consideration, is to play one or two. You are playing 26 straight-up lands. I guess you have Wreckage and Battlements and stuff for value, but it feels like you might just want, one, what's it called? Sheltered Thicket or something like that, just to smooth the margins. Bunch of spot removal. You'll notice there's no early curve. This is literally your early curve is to kill creatures and hope that that's good enough. So that was one of the weird things to me, is I'd assume that, this kind of deck would not be good unless there was a good early drop to go proactive, but that's just how it is. You're bridging the gap 3-drops. You have the basically impossible to exchange with Matter Reshaper. That's just pressures just enough, blocks pretty well, does a bit of everything. And then Hanweir Garrison, which is a pretty powerful aggressive threat. It wins the game quite quickly. And then also with the Battlements represents a very absurd late game threat. One thing worth noting is there's this kind of natural curve of if you play Garrison on 3, activate Battlements targeting it, attack, and then next turn, if they survive and you transform them or meld them, that's a lot of damage. It's 19, so whoever designed that, the math is just wrong. You should go back and add 1 somewhere, but close enough. It's 19. I think it's actually because the reason it's probably 19 is that Hanweir Garrison's front side had to be balanced as a normal Magic card, which it is, and then the back side was probably just going for the number 13, 7 plus 2 3s. But unfortunately, that's not 20, which is just makes it feel a little wrong. But anyways, so you got your reasonable mid-range threats, and the rest of the deck is just slamming 5 and 4 drops at them. So Chandra is a card that's popped up a lot more. So I mentioned that the Teamer deck has kind of become a cut the Marvels, cut the Ulamogs, play Glory Bringers and Chandras instead of the old Teamer Marvel deck stuff. Again, we see it here, just really good source of card advantage. It's removal, just a good Planeswalker. Not quite Gideon good, but I'll take it. We got Thought-Knots here, so we're the Eldrazi deck. This is literally the best Eldrazi, so, or at least colorless mana Eldrazi. Just a great Magic card all around. Not a lot to say about it. Pro Tour Champion Thought-Knots here. Just 4 mana 4/4 is really good. Exiling cards on 4 is kind of nice. Brad Nelson noted this is a 5-drop format, so getting underneath a 5-drop and preempting their ability to cast it is pretty good. And then we have Glorybringer. Glorybringer is super powerful. That is one of these super powerful 5-drops that you can cast. It kills your opponent's stuff and attacks. You'll notice a theme of just threats that are also answers in this deck. So this deck is really just like the Shriekmaw deck of the format. Every turn your goal is to You pick off their early stuff so you don't die, and then just cast some 2-for-1 threats and hope that's good enough. Then you have Reality Smasher, which honestly kind of sucks. 5-mana 5/5 trample haste in comparison to flying haste dragon that kills things, or like Archangel Avacyn, just is not good. It like runs into Torrential Gearhulk, like of all things to describe. But it's fine. It's not great, but it does the job, and you do have a lot of ways to deal damage in large chunks, so it's very easy to put your opponent into range of a single strike being lethal. That's the main deck. There's not a lot of fancy stuff going on. As you'll notice, a big blank section. It's the most linear mid-range deck that you could probably build. So moving to the sideboard, we've got an interesting spread. So we've got additional cheap answers against like zombies, where you just need to kill all of their things. So you're maxing out on Sweltering Suns to get the sweep in. Magma Sprays also fine against like Mardu vehicles, where Incendiary Flow is not super exciting. You've got Release the Gremlins and Byforce. Byforce is mostly, I mean, Release is obviously good against Mardu, but Byforce is very specifically to take out the Metalwork Colossus decks. Like, you need to just kill all of their stuff. Just send them back to the Stone Age. Your main deck is not very well suited to beating a 10/10 artifact creature. I have no idea what Hope of Ghirapur is for. I literally have no idea. If someone can answer that for me, I'll be impressed. I get what it's trying to do, where it's like, oh, I can make a control deck not do something. I don't get it. I have no idea. It just seems like a waste of a card to me. Sky Sovereign's really good. One of the things we discovered when testing for last Pro Tour was how good that Sky Sovereign was out of Mardu against zombies. I believe Jarvis Yu from Team Mastrop East showed up playing this card with Thalia's Lancers. I think he had originally... He might have played Bruna and Gisela at the Pro Tour, but originally he was all about Bruna and Gisela, and it just turned into, I'm going to cast Lancers and find Sky Sovereign, and then kill your stuff repeatedly. Like I said, the plan against zombies is you have to kill everything, and the ways to do that is literally kill everything with a removal spell for everything, and then maybe a sweeper, or some repeatable way to do that. You've got Obligator. This is a way to swing things around against bigger decks. Very specifically, it's good against opposing Glorybringers. You can just like fire back on their creature. You have a Chandra Flamecaller as a bigger sweeper, just generally a powerful magic card. And then you have some Akum Firebirds as your recursive anti-control threat. It's kind of nice because the rest of your deck is pretty good against Magma Spray. So they won't just like... Also, like, this card 2-for-1's Magma Spray, to be fair, but they probably just won't have Magma Spray. So you can really give them the business with this. And unlike a lot of the other threats that would be recursive, it isn't just bricked by a Torrential Gearhulk. They really need, like, Cast Out or Nahiri the Harbinger to really deal with this card, which is, I think, nice. So I'm interested to see how this deck goes. I guess one thing Hope of Ghirapur kind of preempts is New Perspective nonsense. Basically buys you a whole turn against that. You can just like sack it on 6 and then hope to KO them. That matchup does not seem exceptionally good. Worth noting, Eldrazi Obligator is still a 3-mana 3/1 haste, so that's probably good enough against control and stuff. Also, like, you probably have issues with a Torrential Gearhulk, and this can turn that around. This card, I was kind of skeptical of Obligator, but I think it might be better than I think it is here. Kind of interesting. I just, you know, these kind of mid-range decks where there's not like... There's like, you just have cards. They've just never been my thing to like try or do. Like the mid-range decks, like the Abzan deck I won a Pro Tour with, had like ranging answers and like clearly powerful Elspeth that like just dominates the game and stuff like that. It's not just like, I've got some mid-range cards. I'm gonna draw my cards. I'm gonna cast them as I draw them, and I hope that I cast my spells harder. You know. There's like, you know, Mardu was a mid-range deck, but like, you know, if you literally just cast like Toolcraft Heart, they were dead. This deck doesn't have that. So I want to play with these cards to understand if the format is about that, can be about that, and if things skew that way, what actually beats it. So this is an exploratory mission here.